sorry, Mr. Bond. Ha ha ha. What's he doing? What's Scaramanga doing? He's waving at Bond as if he's delighted to see him. What is Christopher Lee doing? Something marvellous, actually. More of that in a minute. But this is the man with the golden gun. The man with the golden gun. Lulu, what a great theme tune this is. She punches it through, as you'd expect Lulu to do. And it's got those stabs of brass. A bit like bow, mow, 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 mow. Jack White and Alicia Keys in Quantum of Solace. So it is a great theme tune, but this 1973 movie is not really well liked by Bond aficionados. Bond aficionados. There are Bond aficionados, and are rightly so. And it wasn't liked by critics who were lukewarm or by the general populace when it came out. It's the fourth lowest grossing Bond movie of the time. And it had a bit of a tortuous beginning, really, because it was supposed to come in after You Only Live Twice. You Only Live Twice, Mr. Bond. But because of uprisings in the area they wanted to film, it was pushed back. And they did. They went with a different Bond film and a different Bond. Lazenby, On Her Majesty's Secret Service. My number one Bond film. More of that contentious view at another time. And then afterwards, apparently, it was said to Lazenby, well, we'll either come back with Diamonds Are Forever or Man with the Golden Gun. And they went with Diamonds Are Forever and a different Bond, because Connery came back. More of that at another time. So this movie is, I won't say it's disliked, but it's sort of at by many people. One of the reasons being because it's different to other Bond movies, earlier Bond movies, is this second Roger Moore movie. It relies more on stunts and on humour. Even the film before this, which is Live and Let Die, has a darker sort of feel, mainly because of Yaphet Kotto, who plays a fantastic villain. But here things are a bit lighter and a bit more comedic. Now, I know that for Live and Let Die, you've got them chasing the zeitgeist as well. And that's the beginning, I think, of Bond film chasing the zeitgeist. There, you have the blaxploitation zeitgeist. Here, the book was set in Jamaica, but it's changed to the Far East. Why? Enter the Dragon comes out in 73, and you've got a Bruce Lee and a Kung Fu, Karate, martial arts delight. So why not have a go at that? A lot of people don't like that, and I can understand why. Plus, you've also got a Bond girl in Mary Goodnight. Good name and a very good ending. Good night. Good night, sir. That's quite nice. But you've got a Bond girl who is, if you don't mind me calling them Bond girls, because they are generally called that, a Bond woman who has just started in the Secret Service and is a bit bungling. Why would you send someone who's just started in the Secret Service to look after James Bond, Licence to Kill, who's always in trouble? Anyway, she ends up in the boot of Scaramanga's car at one point. At another point, she is about to get it on with James, and then he's shunted to the wardrobe. That is farcical. And although I don't think it's done that way here, and actually she does it very well, it's okay, I do feel that it's not ideal. For those people who liked Bond to be harder, who liked Bond to be darker, you're going to have to wait until Timothy Dalton in 87, The Living Daylights, because the films become lighter and chase that zeitgeist more and more. Product placement here as well. If you have a look at the walkie-talkies they're using, Sony on those. So you've got all of that. They're starting to become a brand rather than a character. And some people say that's why the Roger Moore films are not a patch on the Connery films or even some of the other Bond films. However, this does have its moments, and I think it's overlooked. And I was also in danger of overlooking it because I've seen it quite a lot of times. I went to see it when it came out. I seen it quite a lot of times, but quite a lot of times recently on my own, and I watched it with my friend Alan. Hello, Alan, Bond viewer. And with him, quite a lot of things popped out. There is a reliance on stunts. You are going to have, is he called J.W. Pepper? So you've got that character coming back again, a bit like Richard Keel, who comes back from The Spy Who Loved Me into Moonraker. So you have got that. He's the tobacco chewing Mid-South policeman. And he does that very well. That's something that he does. It's something that he does very well. It's a shtick, and he does it extremely well. And he was popular, so he's back. They really shoehorn this in. He happens to be on holiday, so he gets to see Bond there. Then he happens to be sitting in a car that, I don't know, I mean, he can't be buying it. He's not in his own country, so it would really have loads of import tax if he did that. So, he's sitting in a car showroom window when Bond gets in. They really try and it's really nebulous. I know, we'll just have him. Yeah, just happened to be. What a coinkydink, Jay, what a coinkydink. And you've got the stunt, which is the stunt where you're not gonna. I sure am, boy, says Moore. You'd never get Connery doing that. You might get Dalton, you might persuade him to do it, but you've got the stunt. So you have the stunt where the car goes over one side of the bridge, turns in midair onto the other side of the bridge. These are stunts which have seldom been done for Bond, and you get more of it as Bond goes on. What you do get here is the beginning of that kind of sound effect thing. Jerry Goldsmith apparently left that on. He put it in, and Broccoli said, well, I did think, apparently, he said, I did consider whether I should take it out or not, but I left it in. And he said he thought that it undercooped the stunt, and it bloody well does. There's no need to put anything on there. We see what's happening. We see what kind of a stunt it is. We see how fantastic it is. We don't need any help. It's as if someone's in the corner going, that's a good stunt, isn't it? But also, it makes it sound quite funny. And I don't want it to be funny. I want to see that this is a bloody hard thing that a stunt driver has done. I don't want it to be, ain't it funny? Because it isn't. It's impressive. And there is quite a lot of that, ain't it funny, in this. You've got, I don't know whether they mean to do this, but you've got, characters called high fat, sort of vaguely Oriental Asiatic characters, high fat, I just don't know. There is a big scene, a very nice scene actually. The sort of following the zeitgeist kung fu or martial arts scene is very good, because you've got Bond captured. He was always captured, Bond, wasn't he? He wasn't very good really at first. Always captured and then found a way to get out of it. Anyway, you've got him being captured and then having to fight the martial arts champion in the martial arts school and managing to fight dirty and then running away, really. And there is a lovely scene with all of the school out in front of them and all of the tough martial arts men and his mate, the policeman mate who's helping him with his two nieces, who then kick everybody's capacious arses. Beautifully done, really nice. And the great thing is, Bond doesn't get involved at all. He's presented with the last one on his feet and he just pushes his face and down he goes. That's a really nice moment, and that they held back and Bond didn't get involved at all really says something, and I like that. So the plot is really about energy, because it's 73 and you've had energy strikes. OPEC, the oil producing countries, have ratcheted the price up. Heath's 1970 to 73 government have suffered through that, and the trade unions, because of them quite rightly exerting their might, quite rightly in my view as a trade unionist, and you've had a 3-day week because there's not enough energy to go around. So you've got a thing here called a Solex agitator. It's called. It's a little box. Sounds like a new car. Sounds like a Jensen Interceptor. Solex agitator. It's a MacGuffin, and at his private island, Scaramanga, and more of him in a minute, is making his own energy. But the great thing about this is, if you're looking at Bond films, you know, flamboyant Bond villain, check. Henchman, check. Extraordinary plan that's so convoluted it might never work, and you don't need it to be so convoluted, check, check. Because here he's got an island with a beautiful property on it, a rock out to sea, which has some kind of reflecting mirror. It opens out for when the sun comes out. That hits the Solex agitator, which creates energy, and he's got loads of nitrogen tanks in there to create that. And then he's got a laser. What will he do with that? So convoluted, particularly as we see later on, and it's Bond trying to take the Solex agitator, trying to take that. Later on, we see that when a cloud goes over the sun, it stops working. And when the cloud goes, it starts working again. You can't rely on that. It's just ridiculous. It's also saying, can't rely on solar, you know, because when the clouds go over, or when it's a rainy day, you won't get any energy. But it is a really nice idea that it's so convoluted and ridiculous. There is a lovely scene later on where he's trying to get the piece up, the Solex agitator up, and of course he's telling Mary Goodnight to press every button they can. There's an enormous beam of laser out of it which you can't get near. The sun is obscured by the clouds, and he thinks she's done it. Oh, good. He takes the Solex agitator, and then as soon as the cloud goes, it happens here. The look on his face is, oh, a bit confused, really. That's a lovely moment. Another lovely moment is the work that his henchman, and people are split on this, but you know, Hervé Villechaize was an actor of restricted height, and he does a bloody good job here. You know, this is not Fantasy Island and Tattoo. He does a bloody good job. He's a devious henchman who really enjoys messing about with his master, which is why he's loving all of the kind of fun house, which is a sort of X-Men action room for Scaramanga and his line of work, because he is the most expensive assassin in the world. Oh, yes. So there's a sort of funhouse element to this. Mirrors and wax dummies and lots of models of James Bond. But he really enjoys putting early on Scaramanga through his paces and putting other people through their paces and Bond through his paces. And the denouement for that is that Bond, who has lost his gun and he's put through his paces, they have a back-to-back, you know, turn and shoot thing, but Scaramanga's gone by then into the funhouse, because that's where he feels he has the upper hand. Dirty, dirty man, you see, not fighting fair. No. Loses his gun, but what does he do? There is a model of Roger Moore as James Bond, which we've seen earlier on Scaramanga shoot the fingers off. So when that model turns around and Scaramanga thinks, oh, it's just a model, I shot that earlier. Oh, I've been shot right through the head, I think it is. It's a lovely ending, because Moore, as Bond, has dressed up in that because he hasn't got a gun, so he'll use that one. Lucky it fired, eh? It's a lovely ending, and it wouldn't be anything without Christopher Lee's extraordinary performance. Now, I've only just come to this view. I thought that Christopher Lee was just doing his kind of usual imperious Tall, imperious, imposing, charismatic performance. And I never really looked into it before. It never really affected me before. But, you know, Alan, hello again, Alan, said, can you detect any kind of homoerotic basis here? No, I can't. But what I can detect, and I'm glad he said it, because Scaramanga is the top of his game. And as he said, you and I, Mr. Bond, it's a very lonely profession. And it is. You can't trust anybody. You can't work with anybody. You are constantly alone. And all through this, Bond, who he has an obsession with, hence the Mr. Bond, wonderful to see you, and, you know, all of that. Please come and eat. He has an obsession with him because Bond is the best. He's also the flip side, and he tries to convince Bond while they're eating, you know, you have your pension. I've got £1 million a shot. And I only need one shot because of the famed golden gun, which is put together in all sorts of different ways. It's put together by a cigarette holder and a lighter, and it's beautifully done. It's a nice gadget. But the basis of, I want the best, I am the best, and only you can match me, is wonderful. The vestigial nipple thing is he's got a vestigial nipple. It's just a MacGuffin. There's no reason for it. I mean, it's used when Bond pretends to be him, and then and to see high fat, and then comes out, takes the nipple off, and says, "Very titillating." We really had come down. It's almost as if Talbot Rothwell were writing those double entendres, to be honest. Anyway, that's all a MacGuffin, because the main thing is that Christopher Lee is more interested in whether or not he can bag Bond as a hunter. As Bond says, you want me stuffed and mounted over your mantelpiece? Yes, that's exactly what he wants. But he wants to test himself against the best. And he's become obsessed with Bond. Not in a sexual way, but in a kind of crush way. And this is really audacious work. It's not signalled in the way that Javier Bardem does in Skyfall. Not that I'm saying that's a bad performance. I love the way he does that. The homoeroticism is fantastic. And remember what I've said in the Living Daylights piece about if Bond villains go for something, no matter what it is, it will work. It's when you go for nothing and you are frightened by the size of the part and the consequences of the part that it becomes terrible. I refer you to Christoph Waltz, Inspector, and others. And Christopher Lee really goes for something quite subtle. There is a sort of campness about him. When he's shot his lady, played by Maud Adams, another one coming back twice, she'll be an Octopussy as well. Oh dear. In this movie, and Octopussy. Not a good Bond choice, Maud. Anyway, after he's shot her and she's bringing the Solex agitator, she has a handbag, and Bond is kind of talking to her, even though she's dead, to try and keep things going, to say, oh dear, you did say you'd bring that for me. And Christopher Lee sits down and says, I wouldn't bother looking in there. I've already looked. It's beautifully done. It has a campness, and it also has a sort of prosaic quality. It's lovely. Only Christopher Lee probably could have done this with the size and the charisma, and then he plays against that completely. He plays it as if nothing else matters. No one else matters. Everything was there to lure Bond in because he's got a real crush on him. Not a love crush, not a sexual crush, a crush about the work. He loves his work because they're both in the same line of business. And as we know, he comes out on the wrong side of that. There's quite a lot to sigh at here, I suppose. There's the use of the pop culture stuff. There are the stunts. But things like Scaramanga's car turning into a plane, really nice, because it doesn't just happen. You see it being prepared, which is lovely. But there is that to roll your eyes at. However, there is a central performance here, and bear in mind that Roger Moore looked okay as Bond and was moving okay as Bond. He didn't look too old. He still looked dashing. Bearing that in mind, and then the wonderful performance of Christopher Lee, this is better than people think. And I would prompt people to go back and have a look at it again, because there's an audacity in what Christopher Lee does. He doesn't lay it out on a plate for you. He just said it's here if you want to look. If you're on the right wavelength, then you'll find it. And it's taken me so long to do so, but I'm delighted I did. It's probably only a 4.5 out of 5, or even a 4. But that performance from Christopher Lee is worth so much. Ta-ta.